There are billions and billions of dollars dedicated to keeping you constantly distracted. If you're watching my channel, you're interested in how technology changes our relationship to power in ourselves. And that amount of effort being put towards, that amount of effort being put towards keeping you distracted should be concerning if you're someone who's worried about reaching your goals and ambitions, whatever they may be. So on YouTube alone, for example, there's about 30,000 days worth of content produced every single hour. Not every day, not every year, every hour, okay? And so that's enough content to fill up 82 years of human life, right? If you were watching YouTube constantly, if you wanted to get one slice, 1 hour of all of that time that's uploaded every day, you'd have to spend 82 years doing that. And so that's almost an entire human lifetime. And what that means is that you're never going to get through it all. You're never going to get through it all. You'll never stop scrolling. It's never going to end. The scrolling continues until morale improves. And so given that we are in this weird place where the amount of content that exists far outstrips the amount of time that any one human could ever possibly hope to have, it's very important that if you want to get things done in your life, if you want to achieve your goals, and those don't have to be dramatic, ambitious goals. It doesn't need to be making $1 billion or colonizing Mars or even something that crazy. It could just be simply that you have certain goals for your finance, for your career, for your creative endeavors. Or maybe your goals are just to live a more low-key lifestyle, to pull back from the noise. Either way, you need to be able to get a handle on the deluge of distractions that are constantly vying for your time and trying to take it away from you and take it away from your goals. There's a great saying that I always like to remember from Terrence McKenna, actually. And he supposedly saw this, or at least this came to him during a mushroom trip, and it was supposedly spoken to him by one of the fungi, which was, if you don't have a plan, you'll become part of someone else's plan. And I can't cite you the exact lecture that I saw this in, but I remember hearing this many years ago, very distinctly from him, and I thought it was very interesting that it came from a mushroom to tell you this. Maybe we're all part of the mushroom's plan. I think that's what Terrence believed, but I think it stuck with me because it rings true, which is that many of us go through our lives kind of passively absorbing the goals and directives and stimuli that come at us from everyday life. And even though we have a sense perhaps of some of our own goals in terms of what we want to achieve, family, career, money, lifestyle, etc., often those end up getting, pushed by the wayside. And especially now, I'm 31, as people sort of exit their 20s and go into into what I would say is like mature adulthood. A lot of people end up a little bit disillusioned because their dreams that they were hoping to accomplish, they have a sense of being not quite as far along as they thought they would be. Or in some cases, they end up getting exactly what they want and then discovering that the thing that they thought they were after isn't all that it is chalked up to be. And so they realize that maybe the path that they were on wasn't something that they truly wanted, but was something that was installed in them by someone else. And so returning back to this quote about, you better have a plan or you're going to become part of someone else's plan. It's important to really think through what it is that you want out of life and then assess whether the things that you're doing on a regular basis, the patterns, the habits that you've fallen into are actually getting you closer to that. And so let's answer this question now of how do you reclaim your time, right? If all of the internet and billions of dollars, TikTok, YouTube, X, Facebook, whatever, everyone's vying for your attention, everyone's vying for your time. How do you begin reclaiming some of that? Well, to answer that question, we have to actually look at a different question, which is how do you begin to differentiate what's worth your time? Because obviously some of the things that you're consuming are probably going to help you. There's all kinds of educational content you can do, all kinds of lifestyle content like this, which is sort of designed to help you get a handle on the way that you interact with the technology, has its place and has a certain, value to it, although I wouldn't encourage you to be watching this all the time. You should certainly be doing so if you find that wanting to have more sovereignty or control over your relationship to technology is something that's important to you. And to answer this question of how do you differentiate what's actually worth your time, I think the thing that you want to be asking yourself is this moving me towards my goals, or is it distracting me from the right action? And this can actually be a very fine line to try to walk because, in a lot of cases, the content that you're consuming is educational, or it's informative, or it's showing you examples of like, hey, this person over here is living the kind of lifestyle, they've achieved the kind of thing that I want. So if I watch them, I can sort of absorb some of that, some of that essence, and I can get a better idea. They can sort of model for me what it might be like to take that step forward. And in some cases, you need that. There are lots of examples. I've been watching van life videos again lately because I've gotten really into that subgenre again. And I don't know if I'm going to go through with it. I haven't really decided, but it certainly has some kind of appeal, and there's a reason millions of people watch those videos, and why some of those channels blow up and do really well. It's because it's an aspirational kind of lifestyle, and every once in a while, someone who's watching it, they're watching hours and hours of it, and then something clicks, and it gives them the fortitude to go forward and do it themselves. Or in the case of AI automation, I had to go through a lot of AI automation content to get a grasp on, okay, here's where the field is at now. Here's what people are doing. Here's how people build out their business models. But at a certain point, the learning becomes another form of procrastination. And so you have to be very critical with yourself and asking yourself whether or not this thing that I'm doing, this thing that I'm consuming, is really moving me towards my goals, or is it distracting me from right action? And sometimes there's a turning point where the thing that you were doing was necessary to get started, to get the initial inspiration, to get the initial knowledge or learning or models in place, but you've kind of maximized the amount of return on that time investment that you're going to get from doing that. And in your own mind that it's time to take that action. And so you got to be careful, and you got to use your own awareness to really assess whether the thing that you're doing is moving you forward or is distracting you. All right, so now that we've established how to differentiate what's worth your time, we can get back to how to reclaim your time. So the first thing you need to do is keep a log of your time throughout the week. All right, now this is a very basic, simple thing. Everyone's heard this nonstop. Look at your screen time, evaluate things, try to see where that time is just like leaching away from you, right? Going into things that don't matter, watching bullshit, scrolling through reels or shorts or whatever, consuming stuff that's not even not helpful. It's just noise. It's really just noise. You're not going to remember it tomorrow. It's just something that your brain is doing in order to sort of distract itself a little bit and get a little bit of a dopamine hit. And so you want to first, I would suggest doing an audit of all of that stuff, because that stuff is not stuff that's actually that even meaningful to you. And you're not really going to miss it when it's gone. And so once you sort of do this audit, again, I would suggest a week. I think a week is pretty much long enough to get an idea of how you're doing it on a daily basis. Even one day, you might be surprised at where your time is going. And then after that, you can begin to look at the things on that list, on that schedule, that don't really make sense to you. And I'm not saying here that you have to become some sort of super hyper focused entity that just works all the time and never has any fun or rest or anything like that. I had that mindset for a little while, and it really burned me out, and I don't think it was that productive in the long run. I mean, it did help me maintain a full-time job and side businesses and the podcasts and, a relationship at the same time. But ultimately I got stretched too thin and I got burned out, and I found that it wasn't really worth it. It wasn't where it was at. And so the other thing I would suggest is that after you've cut out the fluff, the things that don't really matter to you, that you set aside some intentional time to do the R&R, right? To do the rest and recovery. And that might look like quiet time with yourself, where you take some time to analyze and reflect, and again, work on that internal awareness. But it could also be just general leisure, where you say, hey, look, I'm blocking off this time on, Sunday afternoon, or if you want to take weekends, Saturdays and Sundays, where I just have no expectation of productivity, where I'm just, I'm going to go out with friends. I'm going to go do, fun activities. The other weekend, I went out and went kayaking on a lake on Sunday afternoon, and that was great. And that just gives you the time to reset, and then your mind doesn't feel like it's constantly running on empty, having to come up with the next thing to do or the next task, the next objective, because you're actually giving yourself permission to really rest, to really have that deep rest. And that could also include, bullshit, right? Like it could include watching, an hour of stuff that's not that helpful on YouTube, or, watching your favorite show, or getting in some time to play your favorite video game, as long as you actually keep track of like, okay, this is during my, my rest time. And so I know that it's not getting out of hand. I know that I'm not, wasting hours and hours a week, 20 plus hours a week doing this thing, because I've allocated a certain amount of time, a minimum amount. Maybe that's daily, maybe that's every week, a maximum amount, that is, to making sure that I get that R&R that I think I need and that I deserve. And the nice thing about this is that once you actually learn how to rest, once you actually get good at, this trade-off between the time that I'm working, I'm actually using very efficiently and effectively, and the time that I'm not working, I'm actually just totally relaxing. I have no expectations, no internal pressure on myself to get anything done. Then what you really unlock is this cool thing where you finally have the ability to actually be more creative. Like when you come back from those rest periods, you come back with like a renewed enthusiasm, a renewed rejuvenation and lust for the things that you are working on, because you've kind of refilled your own cup. You've given yourself the space in your mind, the opportunity to really work on those tasks. And that reflection that you do in some of that downtime is also going to help you get more centered, get you more grounded, get you more directed, so that you spiritually are coming from the right place. You know that the thing that you're working on is the thing that you really want to be doing, the thing that you really should be doing, because you've reflected on it and you've gotten through any kind of that internal resistance or incongruence that goes along with that. And so you're now rested, ready. You're working from a place of integrity, and you know exactly what you want to do, and you can get back into it. So all of this is to say that I believe that we can live more meaningful lives and achieve the things that we really want to get done if we're willing to take back some of our time. But you have to be wary, because the internet is out there, and there's, again, so many people, so many opportunities to just whittle it all away. And you don't want to be looking back when you're, what was that? The amount of hours on YouTube, 82. You don't want to be looking back when you're 82 and thinking, dang, I could have done more. I could have spent more time with my family. I could have, started that business, started that channel, done that creative thing that I wanted to do. But I didn't quite get there because I was wasting my time on things that I don't even remember. Thank you for watching. If you liked this talk, you can check out my previous video, The Philosophical Time Bomb Inside Today's AI Revolution, which goes in depth into the aspects of AI specifically, as well as Heideggerian thought, Heideggerian philosophy behind that. So if you wanted to have a more in-depth philosophical look at AI and how it separates us from ourselves and our own human nature and what to do about that, you can check out that video in the description linked below.